by the CAO.
Raise your right hand. I, Brian Gilroy, do swear that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability execute according to law the office of Deputy Mayor for the town of High Prairie from April 25th, 2017 to July 25th, 2017.
Does the newspaper want to take a picture? You usually take pictures.
Didn't see it on the agenda, so didn't bring a camera.
No camera.
That's okay. Wouldn't want to break the lens.
Take a picture with the iPhone, because we always take a picture. I'm sorry, Chris. You want to do it by the flags? Come do it by the flags.
Okay.
We always do it by the flags.
That's why you were going to die.
The importance of the office.
Okay,
So you'll send it to the newspaper? Lovely. Thank you. All right then. Congratulations to the new deputy mayor. And now we'll. Could I have a motion then for adoption of the agenda? And if there's any errors or omissions, additions? A motion?
I'll move to adopt it.
Adopt the agenda as presented. Do you have any errors or yes? Councilor Long?
Number 9, the personnel issue. It says in camera, but on our folder it says non-confidential.
I have placed that on there. It was a discussion on the recreation board. The non-confidential items are basically back up to the discussion. All of the information in that envelope is public knowledge. It deals with the Act, Health Act, which of course is on the website. Information from the Life Saving Society, which you get from asking the Life Saving Society. So there's nothing in that backup information that is confidential. I thought perhaps the discussion, but then I'm not sure what the personnel, because I don't think there would be any personnel. It's up to the council whether they feel that's a in-camera issue or whether it isn't.
In looking at it, and looking at the package, and then seeing this, there doesn't appear to be anything to me that says it's in camera. I would caution that we choose our words really carefully when we're speaking on the issues, but it's not in camera.
Councillor Gilroy?
As it relates to the rec board, I'd like to ask the opinion of the rec board members on what they feel about whether it should be in camera or not.
Chair of the rec board?
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with without a camera.
Okay. Councillor Rose?
Yeah, there's no request for decision in the package. There's just information, so I have really no idea. I don't see anything that is personnel. So, I mean, I'm open to a discussion but there's nothing. I didn't know what the agenda item would be coming out of it.
Okay.
But I mean, open to a discussion on it. I wasn't sure if there was personnel. That's the difficult thing about confidential items. We never know what they are. Like, I mean, we know that this was one that you brought forward, but I didn't know if there was anything else that the CAO had brought forward on personnel. I didn't know if there was something else that we were being updated on when it said confidential items.
Okay.
But here, if you feel like there's a
No, that's why I specifically said it's non-confidential.
Yeah.
Then I guess keeping in what Councillor Long has expressed, watching our words carefully and not discussing personnel issues should be not a problem to discuss recreation. And actually, it may even fall under the administration rescind motion. Item number 5B2 might, if we have a chance, we take a break before we get into that. You would see you could see whether it makes any sense to do it there. Okay.
So then, move to accept the agenda as presented minus removing the number 9. Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah, it's not an in-camera item, you don't need in-camera.
Okay, all in favor then? And that motion is carried. The next item on is scheduled delegations, and that will be with, Michael? Epp, from Hawkins Epp, and Dumont.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to the, and you've got a presentation.
I do, yes.
So I'm gonna move over a bit.
Can I move up to that
You sure can.
podium there?
You'll have to use his auditor's voice. Speak, make sure everyone hears.
Well, pleasure to be here. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, sure. We could turn one around maybe for you, if that would be helpful.
I'm probably gonna pick it up. I'll go through these slides. So, again, thank you for allowing us to come and present to you tonight and review the town's activities and financial activities for the year. And I'd like to go through a PowerPoint to do this. Brian called me earlier this week, last week, saying, how much time do we need? I said about 2 hours. And of course, I was joking. Nobody ever wants to listen to an auditor for 2 hours. So we'll go through this in relatively quick order. You've got a draft financial statement, and I think a copy is made available to.
The public won't get a copy of the draft, but once it's approved and they final copy, then they're welcome to come in and get a copy anytime.
So it'll be a draft document. We'll finalize it after today, and then we'll issue it. Of course, municipal affairs, the filing deadline is May 1st, so it'll happen in due course. So we'll be good. Okay, well, let's go through these PowerPoints here, and wait, turn this right off.
You can still see his computer.
Sorry. I have my laser pointer here. So, okay, well, let's talk about auditing. The auditor's report is the first report you see in the financial statements, and it's broken down into 3 different categories. There's identifying the scope of the audit, which first of all recognizes that management is responsible for all the books and records, accounting procedures, policies, internal controls, all those things that happen 24/7, basically, 365 days a year, and all of which is then accumulated and compiled into the general ledger, and ultimately that's what we audit. Various sub-ledgers that support that. Municipalities, regardless of size, are complex organizations requiring a lot of attention to detail on tracking transactions through the account. So management is responsible for those systems. Our responsibility is to audit and then also audit the financial statements. So we follow Canadian auditing standards, and we make reference to here, reasonable assurance, material misstatement, test basis, significant estimates. Those are principles that are common within the audit arrangement, the audit process. We're looking for reasonable assurance. We're also considering material issues. So you can find an error in a small error in a group of accounts, but if it's not significant, it's not considered material, and it doesn't affect the financial statements taken as a whole. So materiality has to be taken into consideration. Also, too, we do our work on a test basis, so we don't examine every transaction. We sample, scope, establish the scope for the audit, and also too, we give consideration to the various estimates that are necessary within any financial statement, and particularly a municipality that is always very capital intensive, right? There's a lot of investment in capital equipment and roads, etc., and engineering projects. And estimates are made as to their useful life, and then they're amortized over a period of time. So you often hear an accountant talking about amortization. Sometimes they use the word depreciation, but whole idea that you're estimating the useful life of that asset. And so those estimates have to be done appropriately using correct principles. And then finally, we give our opinion, and we are giving you a clean, clear audit opinion. I did want to mention as well regarding the accounting systems. This was our second year doing your audit. Terry first first met her last year. This was her second year, correct? Your second year, and there was some cleanup work necessary last year. There was some more work required this year to bring things along, but I think a lot of progress has been made in the accounting systems, and I certainly commend Terry for her due diligence and hard work. And she works with our staff. Our staff member is Noel Chin. He's the manager on the file, and also Sarah Shapka was working with him. And this was Noel's second year on the audit as well, so he had a good ability to compare prior year, current year, and so we saw certainly improvement over the prior year. And we're issuing a clean, clear audit opinion. So let's go on to the next page. So now we'll talk about the financial statements, and unfortunately I have to tell you that I'm missing a couple of line items on these PowerPoints. You know, accountants are great with numbers, but technology isn't necessarily their strong point. And when you look at your financials, and you have them in front of you here for the counselors, go to page 3 just to have this in front of you, and there's a couple of line items that are missing, not the least of which is cash. So there was a line item missed on this PowerPoint. In fact, one line, and it's the cash balance. The cash balance at the end of the year was $5,339,000. Last year it was $5,598,000, and that's missing. Sorry, it's not there, but it is there. It's in the bank, and we verified that. So it's just not on the screen here. And just while we're on that topic of cash, so your cash balance actually then decreased compared to prior year, several $100,000, but then your investments went up from 405 to 617, so you put more money aside into your investments. Okay, let's talk a bit about then here's your taxes and grants and lieu receivables. So last year's balance was $224,000. This year it's $259,000. I have no specific comment on that as such. Trade and other receivables, $405,000 versus trade and other, $1,400,000 versus $1,600,000. The key, $2,600,000. Thank you. I've been talking lots of numbers lately, so correct me if I mess up. So $1,400,000 to $2.6 million. Major item there is that there's a $1 million grant receivable from MDA Big Lakes for 2016 capital projects. That's in receivables at the end of the year. Okay, so that's total financial assets. Financial liabilities, accounts payable, balance was $936 last year at the end of this year. Remember, when we talk financial position, we're talking a point in time, December 31, 2016 versus 2017. So it's a point in time, and this is what you owe to your suppliers, trade payables, and that'll include salary, wages, you know, any liability, the source deductions, payable at the end of the year versus $936 last year. And so there's a $59,000 decrease, not particularly significant, so I don't have a comment as such on that. Deposit liability 67 versus 95. There's a waste authority deposit liability this year, so really not a significant change. Deferred revenue, every municipality has deferred revenue. Deferred revenue is, the term means that the money is received, not yet earned. And that's what we call it. That's why we call it deferred. That's why it sits in the liabilities until such time as you've earned it. Balance last year, $1,544,000. This year the balance is $1,466,000. And when you look through the detail of the financial statement, we don't have time tonight, but there's a note disclosure that shows the continuity of that account, the opening balances, the closing balances, and again, you know, given the size of your organization, this is really not a significant difference. Municipality is always carrying some amount of money forward because a project was delayed. You know, you have some construction in progress at the end of the year, so funding, you know, perhaps has been received, but again hasn't been earned until those projects are completed, so that's typical. Okay, landfill, so you picked that up through your consolidation of the waste authority. So that's you as a component of landfill closure and post-closure. So there's an effort within a municipality to, municipality accounting standards is to properly disclose and record amounts to close a landfill as well as post-closure. There's a, environmental authorities have a defined regulation that tells you how that's done. And then there's a present value calculation done of those future expenses. It's quite a process, usually involving an engineer to provide the input to these calculations. And nonetheless, you recorded $266,000 last year. You had $247,000. Long-term debt, you made your payments on long-term debt. There is no new debt in the year. This is a key line item that the municipality wants to track, and that's net financial position, net financial asset position. So this is financial assets less financial liabilities, and the balance this year is $2.5 million compared to last year, $895. And then non-financial assets, I said that the municipalities are capital intensive. There they are. You've got $45 million in tangible capital assets, and remember that represents your book values. So it's cost less amortization. It's not market value. It's not replacement cost. It's book values. And this town has been around for many years, and it's been accumulating assets and writing them down and adding more and writing them down. So this is really a mixture of many years of expenses less the amortization. Inventory for consumption, you maintain inventory necessary to provide services throughout the community. And accumulated surplus then at the end of the year, $48 million versus last year, $46 million. Let's go to the next page. This is sorry.
Come back. So when I look at that 2.491, does that mean that if you were to shut the doors on December 31st, you would have had that amount in the bank?
After you settle all your debts, had all your cash, settle all your debts, it'd be $2.4 million. That's correct. Okay. So here is net book value. So there's that $45 million number compared to last year. So overall, not much of a change. However, you did have some good additions in the year. We'll come to that in a moment. But so engineering structures that's roads, streets, walks. That's usually the highest category on any municipality. Your building costs, land improvements, and you can see changes. Most of the changes will be as a result of additions. Here's construction in progress. So
Excuse me, Michael?
Yes.
Just so council knows where he's at, he's on Schedule 5 later on in the package.
I'm just summarizing those schedules. So, but anyway, that shows you the components of the components, and here is.
Back one page, one page back. So the difference between that the 2.4 and 895, why is it so large all of a sudden?
Trade this
From,
account.
20.
Yeah, here you see.
Yeah, those.
Yeah, so this
Why
is.
the jump?
Well, here is the main reason is the cash balance is missing, but the cash balance was roughly 5.4. The cash balance actually offset by the changes here. The real key change here is this amount going from the MD, the $1 million extra receivable in here. And then also too, your liabilities, your trade payables are down. Deferred revenue is down slightly. Long-term debt, you made your debt repayments, and so your liabilities are 6.3 versus 6.7.
So it's really the bill from the county, the 1 million. Because if you took that out of there, it would be 1.5.
That's right.
And this is almost a million.
But we had $1 million in 2015 also.
The difference being that in 2015, we received the money during the year, whereas in 2016, we billed them out at the end of this, in December, but we did not receive the money as of December 31st. We received the money early 2017. But every year, this number has increased because of the million you're getting from the county.
It's up there as a receivable.
But you did, and you'll see this momentarily, you did have a surplus overall excess of revenue over expenses for the year of $1.8 million as well.
Okay.
So operations has contributed to this also. Okay. Again, going back to Terry's point, yes, that's in receivables this year. Last year it would have been in cash. So when you collect that, your cash balance is going to be up $1 million compared to what it was at the end of December.
But
Okay.
it's a financial asset, it was there in both years.
It was.
So that shouldn't be a big difference between, 16 and 15.
It's really, I guess you go back to it, it's really your excess of revenues over expenses, which was over $1 million.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll clarify that here. Okay. So these are the individual additions, the different categories of projects. We identified, the major ones. Okay? And where the funding was from. Okay, let's talk operations here. So total revenue. The overall balance at 9.1 million, last year 8.3 million. Your budget was actually 8.3 million approximately. Just want to bring to your attention tonight, because this comment comes up in a number of different categories. You don't budget for your share of the rec board or the library amounts. They're not part of your budget totals. And that's my understanding, that they're not included in the budgeted revenue, budgeted expenses.
Yeah.
Oh, so that would be part of it.
The deficit of the right one.
But when these actual financial statements are prepared, then we consolidate, proportionately consolidate, bringing in your share of their revenue and your share of their expenses. Yes, you budget for your contribution, but it's not necessarily, you're actually picking up your share of their revenue in these numbers as well, through that consolidation process.
Yes.
And that's what's not budgeted for,
No.
okay?
Because if you pick up our share of the revenue and pick up our share of the expenses, you get the deficit that we budget for.
Right,
Okay.
So-
it's gonna balance out.
it will, it's really presentation, when you compare budget to actual. We're primarily comparing actual to actual here. So, net municipal taxes, 3.2 million, last year 2.9 million.
So-
Your requisition, sorry,
So then, should we be doing it that way? Because it does give a false, when you actually look at it, doesn't give a false revenue?
That's why I had asked the auditors last year and again this year to do a separate schedule that shows just the town's financial statements, because according to legalities, they have to do it consolidated because we have a share in the rec board. But for comparative to our own financials, I have asked them to do a separate schedule, which makes it a little bit easier for council and for the public to understand.
And did they?
I don't know if they've got it done yet, but it was done last year and it will be done this year.
But this includes the rec. Okay, so the budget amount will be different than what?
that's right.
Okay.
These are consolidated with the rec board and library. And the waste authority,
Yes.
all three. Okay, so, well, let's talk user fees, we'll just take it as they come here, $4.2 million, last year 3.9. And I'm not, the budget category was 4.4 million. Sales and users, so that's gonna include your natural gas, gas sales, gas rates, gas consumption was down. So I don't have any other specific comments on that compared to prior years, down for budget. net municipal property tax 3.2 versus 2.9. The requisition from the schools and seniors housing was higher than prior year, and that prompted an increase to that tax rate, which I understand the town tax rates did not go up over prior year. But there was some increase for the assessment that was used for 2015 versus 2016. Okay, government transfers, operating, so this is government grant monies, $690,000 last year.
That was what we budgeted for. We budgeted for 357.
That's right.
There's a big difference there.
The government transfers?
Yeah, the budget on 16, same on 357,
Oh,
and what we actually got was 799, so that was,
so we were super successful,
I think we have a grant person who went after many grants.
okay?
Okay, other categories are numerous other accounts, one of which we've seen trending upwards, penalties and taxes. Last year, you received $65,000 penalties and taxes. This year, $95,000. So that's a pretty common trend that we've seen. So that number is actually down here. You see it here, 65 to 95.
Now, is that from late pay? That's
Yeah.
directly from late pay.
The rentals went up also.
Rentals, you're renting out part of this building, and also more campground rentals.
I think those two buildings are rental too, isn't it?
Cost.
There was an increase of rent,
Increase in rent value.
The interest in investment income, have we moved to a different, service provider for our investments yet?
no, I did a quick look at what was available. I didn't do a full RFD. You do those every 3 to 5 years, 8 years at the maximum, and we are due to do one probably next year.
So are interest rates up, or that's a 12% rise? Why would we?
More money in the bank.
Oh, yeah.
There was a couple of GICs that I put through for some development, and they got repaid back their share, and one of them cashed it early, so we got to keep the difference. Little things like that, it all adds up.
Your guaranteed investment certificates that you have, they earn interest rates ranging from 1.45 to 1.65%.
Is that good? Yes.
Well, it's not good, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Compared to 6, 7 years ago where it was 5 or 4, it's not good, but compared to right now, most places are getting 0.5 or 0.6.
Okay. Licenses, permits, that's in licenses, permits, that'll be included in this line here, 148 to 210. And that's the Peavine development, is
Hospital development permit, building permit.
particularly explain that. So those are my comments on revenue. That's again just quick overview comments on those categories. Looking here at, and this is the purpose here, this pie graph, just to show the components. Net municipal taxes remains at about 35% of your total revenue base. Sales and user charges 46% this year, last year 48%. But it gives you some sense of where these ranges are. And that's a simple bar graph, same information, showing the change over prior year. Expenses by object, and so here we're looking at materials, salaries, wages, transfers to other governments, contracted other, and then amortization. So compared to last year, $9,689,000. This year, $9,392,000. So a slight reduction over prior year. Let's see what I know in the salaries area there were severance payments in 2015, similar payments in 2016. 2016 compared to 2015. But overall, of course, no change, virtually no change.
Good prices though on our contracted and general services. That would be the contracts that we sent out for public works.
Garbage contract was lower. Some of the other things come down.
Okay.
Our expenses are down.
And then materials, goods, contracted services, this would include natural gas, the gas cost, which is also down, revenue's down, purchase cost is down.
It was interesting that under the expenses where you have the recreation and culture on our page 4, the budget was for 1.370. The actual was 2.12, and 2015 was 1.994. There's very much a difference between the different levels there.
That will include the rec board, and library salaries are part of that.
As I said, yeah,
I don't
the
have a
budget and the
specific-
actual just seem to be almost what's double.
But there in that example, the budget doesn't include the rec board and the library in this presentation. And so, I don't have any other specific comments on this category here. Again, looking at it by object, so salaries are about a third, 30% of your total expenditure base. That's pretty common among municipalities. Materials, goods, and contracted services. You know, this might vary depending on how much work a municipality does on their own versus contracting out. Simple bar graph. Some of these numbers might be leaning a little bit, it's just the way it's presented. Okay. So here's your surplus. So here is that, I mentioned to you that the overall surplus, so this is excess of revenues over expenses. The actual operations are in a deficit position compared to last year. So 287,000 negative versus last year, 384. But then when you bring in government transfers for capital, so this is capital related funding, then you ended up with an annual surplus of $1.8 million versus last year $1.1 million. So, you know, going back to the comment that was made as far as what's the reason why the improvement in the net financial assets for the year, it's really largely due to the surplus for the year. Now, there's other adjustments that eventually are made in the cash flow calculation, or in that calculation of net financial assets, which is amortization, and which is a non-cash cost. But in your case, amortization is about $2 million. So that's a non-cash item that's already been deducted from this.
So government transfers to capital, that's 2.16, 2.146.
Yes.
Does that mean that money is that deferred revenue, or is that accessible to us to use?
That's been earmarked for capital projects,
Not accessible to us,
not for operations.
not for operations. So,
That was earmarked up until December 31st. This is what's been recognized. Okay?
kinda, I'm looking for money, I'm looking for a real surplus, like cash in hand surplus,
Well,
which I was,
yeah.
I thought that we had 65,000 left as a real surplus.
Again, this is the consolidated, this is not the towns.
Oh, okay. Am I gonna get a number that's gonna say, you actually have unallocated amount of money, here it is? Am I gonna get a number like that?
Well, we'll do a statement that separates out
Okay.
the town library and the waste authority. So you'll see the town by itself. These key statements, at least anyway, the balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow statement.
And the cash flow statement should give you the, should, if you can, say, you got this much money in the bank,
Should.
you can do what you want, no calls.
Oh, well, I would say it's never that easy, but too that you set aside, so. Okay?
What's the 80,000
That-
change in accounting policy?
There were, we identified, actually, there were 2 items that were identified, 2 or 3, some revenues disclosed in your financial statement.
26.
Deferred, there was an amount of deferred revenue that was identified during this year's audit that was incorrectly treated last year, and so there was an adjustment for deferred revenue.
It was again from 2015 year. The ending number that we had was not the ending, the 2014 year, the ending number that we had at the end of 2014, and the number that was given as the opening balance for 2015 to the auditor was not the same as our books.
And then there was a capital purchase, Terry, remember that it was $53,000 that was recorded in last year in repairs and maintenance, and it was a capital item. It was a land purchase, land transaction, and that was turned around and adjusted back into tangible capital assets. And then there was a small adjustment that actually went back beyond 2015 and was discovered during the current year. That was correct.
$13,000.
Yeah, for 13,000. Okay. So let's move on. Here's the accumulated surplus. So here is, here's that $48 million again, compared to last year 46. Equity and tangible capital assets, and had a good discussion recently with the municipality where you know, ratepayers and whatnot have been expressing some concern that this 41 million or their number for equity wasn't available. Well, truly it's not available because that's equity and tangible capital assets. That's like the equity in one's home. And then you have your surpluses, so there's unrestricted surplus of 4.1 million, there's a restricted surplus of 2.1 million. Last year, you actually had a deficit in this restricted category, and then your operating was that much higher. So this year there was an adjustments to account for that as a restricted surplus.
If council recalls, there was an error of some kind, and we were looking to find it, and I was able to find it this year and balance them out, because you should never have a deficit situation for restricted surplus.
Okay. So summary, excess of revenues over expenses of $1,008,000 versus last year $1,001,000. Net financial assets $2.4 million versus last year $895,000. Definition of net financial assets is a measure of economic resources required by the town to provide services in the future. That's the nature of that. And finally, a thank you to management staff for their assistance for us in working in the audit this year. And that's it. Any other questions? Good questions, good discussion.
Looks like we're flush, but I don't think we really are.
So these are all consolidated. And when would we then adjust the schedule for the town? Is it in here?
It's not in here yet.
Not in here.
It was discussed with the auditor just in the last couple of weeks to remind them that we wanted the same thing as the previous year. Of course, that is an extra expense, but I knew that council would want to go ahead.
Okay, well, these are draft financial statements. We'll finalize and they're due to be issued to municipal affairs by May 1st, and also made available to the public once they're in final form, approximately that same date, is that correct? Monday.
So will you still provide us like an audit findings letter?
We will. That's been provided. Copies will be distributed to council. That's a council document. That's here. You'll get that.
And do we get a copy of the last year's? I know we would have got a copy of last year, but do you provide that, or do you like do a sort of a running commentary on comments from last year if they haven't been looked at, or so we know, because ultimately that guided this year, and now we would have a new letter of audit that could explain some of our questions.
It will, yeah, there will be recognition of amounts or comments that are still coming forward from the prior year to the current year, so there'll be a continuity to it when you see it.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay.
So, any other questions for, Mr. Acton for the clarification? And I guess if we do have questions, we can direct them to the treasurer and she will either attempt to answer them or pass them on to you. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for attending. Is that your laptop? Did you use it?
I'll take this one.
It is ours.
You can keep it. Keep the data projector.
Well, we don't want any assets going missing.
Yeah.
Right.
Give me a second here, I'll just back this up. Thank you.
So what's the procedure now with this, with the draft audit? What do we have to do?
Council has to make a formal motion so that we can go ahead and send it off to municipal affairs before Friday, or Monday. And then once that's done, they can do the final draft and send it off to everybody, but the numbers aren't gonna change.
Is that formal motion?
Is that formal motion in here? In
No,
our-
it is not. I can get you the same as last year if you would like.
I would think if we have to make that motion tonight, don't we?
Yes, you do.
Well, after the break, we'll have a break, so then we can, add it to our agenda.
Okay,
Do that.
I shall do that then.
Okay, all right. Okay, the next one is a scheduled delegation, Tammy Napier and Pat Capewell. Could you come forward then? And is it just yourself? No?
Hello, I'm Tammy Napier.
Yeah, do you wanna sit there and turn
Sure.
the microphone on and Pat is not coming?
No. She has had a stroke and feels uncomfortable.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
So, I'm concerned about the kids in the neighborhood. You've put up, slow children playing signs. They've turned the whole area into a playground. They don't get off the road for vehicles. They ride their bike in race vehicles. We witnessed, Pat, myself and another neighbor witnessed 3 kids shoot in front of a truck that was trying to go around them on one side, and he almost had to take the ditch to not hit them. They've turned the whole neighborhood into a playground. Yards, doesn't matter. It has become kind of crazy, and I'm worried about them, because there's a lot of them. And you can't watch all of them. Coming through there the other day, they were playing hockey, and instead of stopping like they should have, they continued to chase the ball in front of my truck. And I'm not sure if it's the wording on the sign. I was out with my dogs the other day and I heard a little boy say, "Let's play here," and the other one said, "No, we can play here, see?" And he pointed at the sign because it's by the road and it's turned into their playground. So I'm not sure if, I don't know what to do. Like, what do you do?
Okay, is this
So-
the first time that you've heard of this problem?
Yeah, like, I'm not sure if we should be calling Mr. Bloom and saying, like, you need to come and talk with people. Like, I don't know, I honestly don't know what to do. I've yelled at them and asked them to get off the road when they refuse to move in front of my vehicle. I've heard horns honking. I've heard, yeah, so they're just, it's a playground, the whole, yeah.
Now that's brought to our attention.
Yeah.
Councillor Gilbert?
Can I just ask the average age? Like, are they elementary school? Are they preschool?
Elementary.
Big elementary school?
Yeah, anywhere from 1 to 6 maybe, 1 to 5. What is there, 9, I think, maybe, of them? Like, they're little mice. But yeah, like, I'm concerned because you can watch But when they start racing a vehicle and, so I don't know if we need to change the wording on the sign, do we need to put up just 20 kilometers an hour? I mean, we crawl through there anyway and everybody does, right? But, yeah, I honestly don't know the answer and I wish I did.
Okay, I appreciate the fact that you've brought that to our attention. Our CAO, Mr. Martinson, will take that up with.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I wasn't sure if I should go to Mr. Bloom, like who do I go to? So I thought, well, we'll bring it here.
And let
and
us
he can-
know. You
yeah.
could have phoned the CAO.
No, I
and
never
let us
thought.
know.
That would've been handy.
You could have phoned Mr. Bloom, Constable Bloom.
Okay.
Once they start acting on this, and they'll act on it very quickly, watch and see if it makes a difference, and
Okay.
keep Mr. Martinson apprised
I will for sure.
of whether or not you're seeing a change in
Okay.
activity. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. No, thanks for your time, and that's what Pat just wanted me to say. Was that
Yes.
they're
Well,
going to the
thank you
yard,
for
so-
coming. We appreciate
Thank you
that.
so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you've got a note on that, and you'll work with it. Okay. Public delegations. Do we have any public delegations in the gallery? I'll call again for public delegations, and I see nobody coming up for public delegations, so we'll move on. Public Works report. Councillor Gilroy.
I'll make a motion that council receive the April 2017 Public Works Report as presented for information.
Do you have anything on your report that you would like to draw our attention to?
Yes, I would just like to let council know that our 10-year operating license is in, signed off by the director, so it's completed.
Good.
And I'll entertain any questions.
That's a good news story for the newspaper. I'm sure they'll want to interview you and do a story on how we have been successful again for another 10 years. Councillor Gilroy.
Now that the new hospital's open and you've been working on the campground, what's happening with the fencing around that retention pond, the big water area that's brought
That,
in?
if council remembers correctly, we negotiated with AI and they're gonna put that fence in as soon as the frost is out of the ground, at their cost.
Even better.
Councillor Rose, do you have any questions on Public Works? Councillor Zanaka?
I do. One is the pitch-in week that's coming up. Pitch-in week that's coming up. The location has been moved
Yes,
to the town Public Works building
yes.
yard. Has that been advertised, in the paper, on the sign, social media? I've seen it. Just to let people know that it's not at the Sports Palace.
Yeah, if it hasn't been, it will be. Brian's telling me that Nancy has advertised it. Yeah.
It is, okay. That
Just
was-
simply because there was too much of a conflict going on there. There was the garage sale one weekend and also the ladies' night coming up and the powwow as well. So we decided to give it a whirl down at the shop.
So my next question in regards to that is, the powwow is on the 6th, and the garage sale is in the parking lot at the same time.
That their issue would be a recreation issue. We don't book the facilities.
I'm just not sure that the rec board is aware of how busy the parking lot is when it's powwow time.
Yeah. Councillor, Mr. Martinson?
That's one of the reasons why we decided to move it, the venue, is because Kim Dumont, on behalf of the powwow, had phoned me with concerns about the parking. So I talked it over with Mike Denty and Vern, and we decided to move it to the public workshop. We looked at even locating it to this side of the town office, but the asphalt there isn't that strong, and we thought with the loader and that driving back and forth there, that it'd probably bust it up too, so we decided to move it down to the public workshop.
Also, with it being at the public workshop, we have the burn pile down there, and we were sending somebody from here down to let them in the gate anyway. So if we can host it down there, it's probably best.
So we'll try this as this year and maybe even just.
Yeah, and our yard is fenced, so we're not renting fence material to go around there. It's just not as convenient of a location.
It's not that big of a town. Councillor, I'm just gonna go around first, okay? Councillor Long?
I'm good.
Did you have anything else, Councillor Danaka?
Just in regards to the rec board's decision, or whoever made that decision to have the outdoor garage sale at the same time as the powwow, I'm not sure if they are really aware that they have, the food trucks are in the parking lot, there's other things in the parking lot as well that coincide with the powwow. So I'm not exactly sure what kind of an impact those tables that they're looking at setting up are gonna have in terms of parking and those other issues.
I'm not sure how big the garage sale is. Can you? How big is the garage sale? No?
It was in the program we decided to I'll ask
Right?
I'll ask you.
Because I'm wondering if maybe they can move it to here, to the town's parking lot here, and then extend it out to,
Good idea.
Yeah, we
To
can address the
behind the Golden
concerns and
Age.
see if there's another spot that they could move the garage sale to that's still just as visible.
yeah. Because I agree, the powwow takes a lot of parking.
Yeah, absolutely, the parking area.
Yeah.
Actually, most of this area is going up to the parking.
Yeah, but I can't think of any, well, there's the office center. That parking lot's a good and visible by Eden and Pratt and all that. So,
We'll look into that.
all right, nothing else, Councillor Danaka?
Nope.
Nothing for Councillor Long? Councillor Panasic?
Yeah, just had a question or one comment. It's good to see the street sweeper out and getting on it. And obviously got some permission to go ahead and sweep before May 15th, even though the snow did come as they predicted.
And they didn't put no sand down though.
Yeah.
All-
The other question I had, now that we've got the 10-year approval, I believe that's part of what we were waiting on regarding the old
Water treatment
water
facility.
treatment facility.
It's been taken out of there, so that will be something that will be council's decision if they want to demolish that building.
Yeah, it's just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Courtney?
Just curious on how they're doing, how's the work going on the lift station there on 53rd there?
It's coming along. The genset's been put in. They're doing the temporary pumping is already in place. Debbie's probably smelling that at her house, but or Councillor Rose, I should say. Yeah, it's coming along. They're doing the coatings inside the wet well, and all the supplies are down at our shop. We're storing them for them. They're using one of the new pumps to do the temporary pumping as well. So it's coming along good.
Councillor Gilmore?
I only had one other comment to go with Councillor Danaka's insight there. Knowing that not everybody is on the various avenues that you've used to change the location, is it possible to get some sort of notification to the schools so the schools can send something home? Because it is a drastic change. Is it possible to get like something to go home with the kids this week?
We can talk to the schools, see if they'll hand it out to the kids. PA system, but it's not guaranteed to make it home that way either.
And I unfortunately, the newsletter still specified the sports palace with the utility bills. It was after that, yeah. So, I guess the best we can do is you'll see a full parking lot, unless you wanna put up a barricade with a signage on it saying.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say, why don't we just look at putting some signage up right there in the parking lot?
Yeah.
You know, if the people
We
that
can-
don't get it.
we can do that,
arrow
yeah.
up,
On the boulevard, put a barricade on the boulevard and just
Yeah.
big words. So,
And I'd also like to just touch on the Treaty 8 tournament. We took extra special care this year in making sure that there was no complaints in regards to garbage. And in fact, there was very minimal cleanup after the Treaty 8. It was very well done this year.
Good, I'm hoping that they come again next year. There's discussion on it unfortunately, but, we certainly welcome them. All right then, seeing no other questions on Public Works, thank you for your report, and, I hope you enjoy the rest of the spring.
Construction season.
All right, we vote on favor of that? We have a motion to accept the report, all in favor? Motion is carried. Minutes of the April 11th, 2017 meeting. Councillor Rose?
The council approved the minutes from the April 11th, 2017 regular council meeting as presented.
Are there any errors or omissions that anyone would like to bring to our attention? Councillor Danaka?
I just have a question, and it's more to refresh my memory, but the volunteer appreciation event funding, because I believe it was, I thought it was your motion, but obviously it was your motion, it says. 1,750, I thought it was 1,250.
It was 1,250 for the.
For another 50.
Yes, and then the 500 was base.
Oh, right, okay, okay, all right.
And I
Okay,
don't,
that's just-
and I don't believe they used the whole 1,250.
Okay, no,
Because they
that's
didn't.
my only question.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes as presented? That motion is carried. The next item is the sesquicentennial. No, actually, this is, what have I got? Finance. Finance water stations. Councillor Gilroy.
I'll make the motion that council approve the $12,000 from the legacy portion of the sesquicentennial budget to purchase the water stations that would be placed around the town on the condition that the Lesser Slave Lake watershed is successful in their grant application, because that's part of it, and I've already conferred with Michael Long on this one, so I'm good on that.
The grant application is successful. Any comments on this? Councillor Danaka?
I don't see, I don't necessarily see this as a legacy project or to fund. I don't see it as a sesquicentennial celebration idea. To me, this is more of a rec board town idea, if they want to put refillable water stations for people to use. I'm thinking for $12,000 from the legacy, we could think of something that would be a little bit more sesquicentennial celebration ideas as opposed to water stations. That's just my opinion.
Councillor Long?
We had a pretty good discussion about that, and with the Watershed Council, they approached us with this idea, and the first thing is that they got a better deal on the pricing of these water stations. We felt that one on Railroad Avenue, one down by J.C. Park, one in the by the skateboard, and then one physically inside the Sports Palace. If you look at, and I don't know exactly all the information if you read on it, but the Sports Palace refillable water station, from an environmental aspect, in Slave Lake, in 10 months' time, their water bottle refilling station saved 38,000 water bottles from going into the landfill. 38,000 bottles were filled up at that station alone. So from an environmental standpoint, from a legacy standpoint, those things will be carrying on. One, possibly two, will have also watering stations attached for dogs. So when people are walking their pets, they'll be able to stop at J.C. Park and possibly at the Railroad Avenue. It isn't necessarily what we would have thought of, but from a watershed perspective, and certainly from an ecological and environmental perspective, it is a great legacy project. And so with that partnership and with those funds available, those water fountains will be there for years to come. Years to come, for people to be able to utilize. And yes, it could have possibly come from other areas, but, and other funding streams. But we had this ability to partner up with, which is one of our mandates to partner up. And this gives us an opportunity, gives everybody in town to be able to benefit from the funding in the sesquicentennial budget.
Councillor Dinac?
Okay, but when I look at the cash contributions, it says $18,955.92 are needed. They need $12,000 from the sesquicentennial, where the Lesser Slave watershed is only putting in 67.
The funds that are coming through for the water fountains are in fact less than what we initially thought. And so we, rather than paring ours down, we added on the water fountain for the Sports Palace. And that was another one that we did. And then also, we're still debating whether to go with 2 dog waterers, because they are a bit more expensive. So that's why there's a little bit of a discrepancy, but we decided that it would be beneficial for the whole community, not just the dog walkers, not just the kids at the skateboard park, but also at the Sports Palace. Everybody wins. And so using the sesquicentennial dollars towards this is our monies that normally wouldn't be there to help out on this venture, but because we had those funds there and they approached us, and we thought it would be a great way to and an environmentally friendly way to provide a legacy for the community. 38,000 bottles avoided the landfill from one filling station. We'll have 4.
Councillor Dinac?
Yeah, I mean, that's all wonderful, but I mean, the mandate of the sesquicentennial was to partner with and enhance other activities that were happening to celebrate the sesquicentennial. It wasn't necessarily to, partner with an organization just to have something. So, I mean, I can think of $12,000 that could have been used in a different manner to partner with some organizations.
True.
Example, we could have partnered with FCSS and done a wonderful sesquicentennial volunteer appreciation. I'm struggling with this one. I'm really struggling.
Is there any comments from Councillor Courtney?
Just the only thing is, looking at the bottle saved numbers in the sports facility, it's like hockey teams in general carry their own water bottles, so they'll carry anywhere from 6 to the younger kids. They carry 20 bottles, a bottle each, and they fill them once every period.
Yeah.
So that's 2 teams. So sometimes you'll have 40 bottles.
Yeah.
Every period, 3 periods, so 40 times 3, 120. And if they got 6 games, 8 games that day, so that, I mean, and those plastic bottles, they go from town to town to town with those bottles anyway.
Right.
So that number could be a little bit skewed. I'm just because if it counts every time it's filled, well, I can see where that's counting, but as far as a full idea though, I think it's probably a good idea. I know when we're riding, for example, just with what we do with riding bikes, if there's a water fill station out on the trails, or walking trails where we're riding, it's pretty handy to top up. I know it would be where we have to bring water from somewhere else. So, I know when the walking trails and stuff, if there's a place to fill up the water, I just think it'd be a nice service.
Yeah.
So realistically, after looking at this, I think I would be behind it because it's something we can promote and we can put up a sign saying that it is, where the funds came from, right?
There will be
A plaque or a.
plaque, something on each
Yeah,
one.
and I don't know, I think it's one more service we can give to our public that's walking on the walking trails, and it gives them another service knowing that that's available for them.
Yeah.
So I think it's a positive, I'm for it.
Councillor Gilroy?
I did make motion, but I do have two questions. One would be to Vern, and that is the amount of time it would take for the public works people. They're looking at a $10,000 to $12,000 in kind. Does that fit into your schedule if they were to, for materials, et cetera, that you would need to do from public works, or does it add to your budget?
This is something that wasn't in our budget plan, so it would be something that would add to our budget. I'm also, after looking at the man and equipment and the materials, there's places on the walking trail, the places that asphalt will have to be replaced. And once you dig down in the asphalt, I'm questioning some of the costs.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where those dollar amounts came from. Did Tammy approach anybody from the town or? She did?
But
Okay.
I don't think, I didn't get a chance to talk with Mike because I was away. And there's places where we do not have water, like this
Exactly.
services to the boulevards where these are gonna have to go into. So the costs may go higher than what is anticipated here. I'd have to see where people would choose the locations before we can come up with actual costs.
And I think more than likely the town would be the one who would be saying this is the best place to put this particular fountain.
But I know in Railway Avenue, there is no water services that go to the south side of the road, anywhere along that road.
So,
Okay, anything else that you'd like to add?
No, that's my only concern.
yeah.
Okay, Councillor Gilroy?
Sorry, Vern, there's one other one I have to ask you on. Water bottle refilling stations to me are awesome during the summer because you get people out to do it. Most of these are outdoor ones. Are we gonna have any restrictions due to our weather patterns up here on how useful they will be and how they will be protected against any vandalism or stuff like that?
I'm not concerned about vandalism at all. The winterization of them is more of a concern, I suppose, that I have, but.
When you shut the service off, it's a self-draining service, so that as soon as you shut it off, it drains into the ground. So there should be no issues with winterization of them.
Perfect.
You only going to use the one in the winter, which would be at the arena.
Yeah.
All right, Councillor Rose?
I was just gonna say, I agree, it's a nice, small, extra item that we can add value to the community with, but maybe we should consider amending the motion to allow Public Works to have their input, because if the cost of the service work and the in-kind far exceeds what's in this budget, then
Then it might be.
so we can approve the funds from Sesquicentennial if council agrees, and then an amendment to deal with the in-kind portion.
Well, maybe actually the motion should be defeated and ask that administration investigate and bring us back more realistic costs.
Are we under a time constraint, Nick?
We are.
Yeah.
What kind of a time
With the order, with the.
We are looking at.
I think it said in here the application, something about May 15th.
So we can still approve it with an amendment that it fits into Vern's budget.
Yes.
It would be based upon the locations. If we could find locations where we have services up into the property, like I know there's one back here at the skateboard park that's already there. It's just a matter of going down to it and putting the piping into this station. Plus there'd be some concrete, obviously, probably for the station to sit on. J.C. Park I don't see as a big issue. The one that I felt was the big concern was Railway Avenue. Just being, there is no, like I say, the water line is on the north side of Railway Avenue.
Right.
And there is no services across.
Is there?
Well, actually, no, there is. There is the old CNR service for that little trailer that used to sit
Oh, yeah.
on, but that
Did
is
it have
their,
water?
that is, yeah, it did, but that is their property. So then you'd have to talk to them in regards to using that service.
Oh, but then that would be good.
Yeah.
Treasurer has something.
If council would like, I could also research to see next week whether we can get other grants to help for doing this rather than using sesquicentennial money. So that is an option if council wishes.
Okay.
I'm sorry for not remembering that, but that little camp shack that was
Yeah,
there, that.
and
we
the
did have
thing is
service.
that Railway Avenue sees a lot of traffic with
Yeah.
dog walkers.
But we could talk to them about utilizing that service.
Okay.
Okay.
So do you want to, yes, Councillor Panasic?
I know at one time, the tennis club was looking at putting water at the tennis courts for all of the users there, and there was some issues that were brought up that I don't know if these new fountains address, but it was where does the wastewater go? So that, there was a concern that if they were jammed open and water was running, where would it go? Is it just gonna go on the ground? And that wasn't deemed to be all that good at that time. So I was just wondering about that wastewater and the sort of the management, if these are quote tamper-proof, you were getting at that a little bit, and then what happens with the wastewater that gets used there? Or is there any concerns with that?
I'm of the opinion that, yeah, kids will be kids. I'm assuming that's what we're looking at. But on the whole, when we look at the town, when we look at the park and the condition of the park, when we look at the condition of the skateboard park, immaculate. It's doing great. And there's no vandalism, so I tend to look at it from a positive. The wastewater is going to go on the ground. That would be the first thing. But I just don't see it happening. I just don't see a lot of vandalism going on and people wrecking things just out of spite. I think we're a better town than that.
All right, Councillor Gilroy, and then I'm cutting this off.
All I wanted was clarification. Did you want me to look at amending it, or were you going to try and defeat it? Just so I know what I'm supposed to do here.
Okay, so we've got 12,000 on condition that that the watershed grant application is successful. We could start with 12,000 and see what grants come in, and it has to be brought back for, once you price it, if you need an amendment to the amount, well then we can bring it back and amend the amount. Does that sound reasonable? So we'll start with
look at it based on what's on the agenda.
12,000.
But the in-kind portion of the town.
Yeah, we'll leave that there until Public Works comes back with different prices, and we'll see what the grant, the treasurer, she's now the grant writer now. Now that she's done the audit. But we'll see what she can find, and if there's any big changes, bring it back and we'll take another look at it.
And the Sesquicentennial Committee is open to direction from the parks, from the Public Works as to the appropriate places?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the motion will stand as it is on condition that Watershed's grant application is successful. All in favor? That motion is opposed. That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item is the mill rate. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Carry on.
Well, I'm gone.
I jumped on my screen.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad location.
Tax bylaw. So we'll hear from the treasurer again. What are we looking at for information that you've given us?
The first item, just for your information, was the education property tax requisition. That's the long sheet with the highlighted yellow line. It's a 10-page report that's available online, but I only printed off the one page that has the town of High Prairie. It compares the education tax from last year to this year, and as you'll see, there's a 10% increase, and that is out of our control. It is something that the province mandates for us. Last year went down 11%, if I recall, so basically they're just making up what they lost last year.
Okay.
The second item is the tax levy RFD and the tax levy bylaw. And part of that I've also included for council is the comparatives with 2 commercials and 2 residentials, just to give you an idea of what it's been like from 2014 to 2017. The big thing to note on the last line of each of those 4 pages with the comparatives is that even with the increase of 10% education and with the carbon levy, the tax rate will still, the tax amount will still be less than what it was in 2014. It is higher than last year, but it is still less than 2014. So I'm not sure if you want to go with the tax levy bylaw, if you want to go line by line, explaining any figures, or if you just wanted to go ahead and make the motion, or how you want to approach this.
My question would be using your property residential number 1 uses, on 2017, uses a mill rate of 009276, which is the existing one. Yes?
Which page?
Page
Pardon?
3.
Page 3,
Property
and
residential number 1.
property residential number 1, example, okay?
Go to 2017 and
Yes.
under municipal.
Yep.
Because we have no control over schools, we have no control
Correct.
over seniors, and we're saying the assessment remains the same on this sample, residential number 1. You're gonna leave the same mill rate for 2017. No, you're increasing the mill rate.
Yes.
Yes, you are increasing the mill rate.
The mill rates I increased for both the residential and non-residential by 2.78% to make sure that the numbers would be exactly right on for what we needed. And that is just a percentage I calculated to find out what would be the same. I didn't know if council wanted to increase the non-residential more than the residential as they did last year. So I just did an even percentage increase. The dollar amount it winds up being, though, is still, like I said, lower than 2014. So, but we have to cover the carbon tax somehow, and it is what it is.
Okay, comments. Does anybody have any comments regarding this?
I don't see a way around it.
Councillor Long?
The increase is slight, but I don't see how, what with the carbon tax there, I mean, we have to cover it somehow. We've done everything we can do in our due diligence to try to keep the taxes down, and then you get thrown the curveball.
Any other comments? Councillor Panasic?
Well, we've been through the budget, 7 times now. I don't know if we can adjust that anymore. We've tweaked what we can tweak, and based on the assessments, this is the rates, and it's gone up slightly, which is too bad, but I don't know how we can change it at this point. I think we gotta move ahead. Because it's gotta be done before, what's the timeline, Terry? It's gotta be finished.
Basically, you almost have to approve it tonight because I need to have time to put it into the system and generate the tax notices. Otherwise, we'll have to extend everything and delay things by a month. Unless you had a special meeting in the next 3 days.
Well, I'm of the same opinion as Councillor Panasic, is that we've been through that budget, the operating budget, the capital budget. There is no more that we can do there. However, that's why I kept asking the auditor, what is our surplus? And that, I guess, is the key. Are we ready to take money from our surplus to hold the line on the mill rate or to make sure that these taxes do not go up on our municipal portion rather, and we can't do anything about the school, 10% increase. Heart River Foundation is coming in and they got I think a $10 increase, minimal increase, but I'm concerned that the people in this town are hurting already. I don't want to do another, it's only $50. And so I need to know, what is our surplus? Can we cover anything from our surplus and say, well, let's just use the surplus?
One of the things council should also remember is that last year we had a whole bunch of under levies that added to people's tax bills. That's not included in here. So people's tax bills might have been a couple hundred more than what we have here in the regular portion. And so this year, most of that is gone because it was from the previous year, if you recall, from 2015. There was the education one that we had to cover. There was the previous linear assessment that we had to cover. We had all those under levies we had to cover last year. So that was added on top. So those aren't added on this year.
But this calculation is based on assessment.
Correct.
So the under levies have nothing to do with it.
No, but I'm saying that the total tax bill that a resident would have probably had an extra 200 on it for all those additional under levies last year, which are not in the budget this year, they're not there this year. If you recall, we had about 7 lines last year for under levies.
You had an under levy in the Recplex.
Yes, we have 2 this year.
You had an under levy in the Seniors Foundation, and you had an under levy in the public school and probably the school.
Yes, but there was 2 under levies with the school last year because of the 2 different errors. So there was quite a bit extra last year, especially for the non-residentials.
Well, this assessment is based on a $271,000 assessment, and the under levies are $60. So not 200.
But this, I'm trying to see, where are you reading?
I'm looking at an actual tax bill.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the actual under levies, and it's not 200.
Okay.
So.
But it would depend on your assessment.
This is a pretty reasonable assessment, $271,000
for residential.
A residential.
Yes, but the under levies were not on the residential. The majority of them were on the non-residential.
Which hurts the businesses even more.
Correct.
And the businesses are the ones that we're trying to attract to our town.
And those under levies are not there this year.
Okay, so they should be okay.
Correct.
I think Councillor Gilroy, did you have a question?
No, I was just going to refer to that very large education under levy that we were stuck with last year. That to me was very unreasonable, but we had no choice. But I don't think that's in part of the 10% they're asking for this year.
No.
So it's.
So again, I come back to, have we any surplus to be able to hold this, to cover the assessment that, instead of raising the mill rate. And the reason I keep coming around the circle about mill rate is because I know you keep saying mill rate means nothing, mill rate means nothing, but it does mean something. It means that I'm gonna have a higher tax bill, and not just me, but every other ratepayer in town.
Okay, I tried to make things simple rather than complicated, and so I left the assessment the same on all of these examples. I left the assessment the same as the previous year, so that you guys would be able to see it more accurately. But if you'd like me to revise them and give you the actual assessments, which are probably lower, then it might be even less for these people. I just used that so that it would simplify things.
Yeah, and you did it well, because when I look at the comparison between 2016 and 2017, I see that it's going to be an increase of $70. No.
But the residential went down dramatically in assessments, if you recall.
So if
it went down about 7 or 8%.
So
So if you'd reduce each of those residential properties by 7 or 8% for assessment,
then you can increase the mill rate and you'll get exactly the same
Correct.
amount of dollars, and those people
Correct.
will not pay any difference.
correct.
Okay. All right.
I was trying to simplify it, but I don't know if I made it worse.
No, you did well, as long as, and is that what was it, a 7% reduction, did you say?
Between 7 and 8% reduction for overall for residential. It was an increase for non-residential, so there's more businesses and commercial and industrial out there this year.
Okay.
So it's an increase in the amount of commercial assessment, not in the actual commercial assessment per building.
Correct.
Any other questions? I'm feeling that we're gonna be holding the line. When this is all said and done, when I open up my tax bill, I should see just about the same amount. I don't wanna see $200 increase. I don't mind seeing a $20 increase. I mean, I can live with that, but I'm not going to be very happy if it's a $200 increase. And saying that, I understand I have no control over the school. I just don't wanna see the municipal portion be going up. And you're basically saying, I think you're gonna be okay.
I think you're gonna be okay.
All right. What about the commercial then? Can we do anything for them? Now, I look at the school levy and I see that they are gonna be hit with 14% increase. Again, I can't do anything for them there. Can we do anything for the businesses can we drop that by any means?
Not that I can think of. Council always has the option of using reserves.
Well, I'm if you're gonna say you're open for business and you're going to be friendly to business and whatever, then you're gonna have to be saying, we have a reasonable tax structure here. And I don't think that 14, I don't think our commercial rate, a non-residential rate, is business friendly. I'm sorry, I just don't see that, but I'm only one vote on this council, so.
The way that I look at it right now is the fact that it's still lower than 2014, so you're still holding the line compared to a lot of municipalities which have had to increase this year. So I think you're doing quite well personally.
2014 is a long time ago. 2015 is okay, but 2016, 2016 we're
If you look at what you should have charged for 2015, you're way, way under.
Yeah, unfortunately, but, so you actually want a small increase in that, 13.8, and it was 13.6, basically. Property large commercial, page 1.
Yes.
Has anyone else got any comments, or am I the only one that's?
You're not the only one. But just from our taxpayers' point of view, in my walkabouts and talking to business owners and everybody that I've talked to, everybody, I don't think there's one person that said your taxes are great, don't worry about it, you're doing a great job. There isn't a business out there that isn't saying our taxes are high. You need to do anything about the taxes. So you're not alone. Every business in town is with you.
Okay, and I guess the other thing I'm looking at is the email that you sent us where it said that the businesses have increased assessment, the properties. We have been successful in getting more businesses in town. If we're getting more businesses in town, then the existing businesses should be getting the benefit of us getting out there and getting more businesses in town.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct, because the amount is spread over more businesses.
Exactly. Therefore, I would like to see us use some of our surplus and reduce the business mill rate. That's what I would like to see. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'd like to see us go down. 13.5 was last year, I'd like to see us go to 13. That's a half a mil. Well, 0.6 mil. What are the rest thinking?
So you wanna reduce lower than the recommendation?
Yep. I want the recommendation to be 0.013 for non-residential. Councillor Panasic?
I don't want to see higher taxes, but I think taking from our savings account year after year to keep it down does cause problems, because we did subsidize it to make up for some of those errors last year, and we're gonna subsidize it again this year. And in our budget, we reduced how much we were gonna put into our surplus. That's going to impact the future and what we can do with our developments and our growth and replacing of the roads and the streets. And for the relatively small amount, I think we are better to go with it at this rate, at this time. And I mean, next year, looking at budgets, I would rather see it come down as a budget item so that we don't have to. But I think we still have to keep money in our savings accounts for those projects that are needed in this town. We need to replace roads, we know that, and those are costly, and if we don't have the money for it, that's gonna be a problem. So trying to do this adjustment now, it seems so late in the game. We should have been maybe looking at this a little earlier for me. Because all of a sudden, where are we getting the money from? Where's that capital? I don't understand where we would get it from that much. I know we have some money in reserves, but that's my thoughts.
And Councillor Gilroy?
If we have no other alternative than to do what we're doing, is there any way we can make more flexible payment options without interest? You know what I mean? To make it, if people are hurting that badly, which a lot of them are, maybe we could stretch the payment a little bit out.
We have payment options and they are available to all, I'm not sure about commercial, but it is for all residentials. They can go on a monthly payment plan. Everybody, even commercial.
And for commercial as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm
that
just
option
thinking
is always available.
I'm just thinking if it really hurts, maybe we could be a little more flexible with it, and not be as stringent on penalties, but as long as we are able to figure out a way to keep our operating going so that we're not cash strapped at any one time. If that makes sense.
Councillor Long?
So, we may not be able to answer how much money we have in reserve, but if we were to bring it down, as the mayor's asked, or hold our own, so it's a reduction of what points?
0.0003. I mean, it's infinitesimal.
How much would that cost us?
I'd have to go to my computer and look into my spreadsheet and put it into my formula to find out how much that would save you or have you need out of your reserves. But one thing I would like to point out to council, that this might not be a 2.78 increase this year, but you had 0 last year. So if you divide it by the 2 years, that's only 1.4. And then I'm not sure what your increase was the previous year, but if you're dividing it by 3, then again, it's less than 1%. So
You're really trying to sell us. Council, or Mr. Walker?
I did a rough calculation here. It would be about 83,500.
Any other comments?
Based upon the 2017 rate down to the 13.5.
So you're looking at 85,000. And the other thing is, we have savings, and the savings are for rainy day. We're in a rainy day. Like, you could save and you could save and you could be sitting there saying, well, geez, but we have a great savings account, except that everybody is leaving town. What good is a good savings account if you can't bring in more business? And that is one of the things that we are constantly told about our businesses is you cost too much to operate. So a small increment now is well worth being able to say that businesses that are coming in, we are continuously working at trying to be more business friendly, and this is how we're doing it. The other thing is, in the last 3 years now, we've received $1 million from the county, which has helped us very much in doing our capital projects. We're ahead on our capital projects, aren't we?
That all depends on what council decides to do this year. If we don't proceed with any projects, then we're right on pace. We're not ahead.
No.
We're on pace.
But if
In
we
the 10-year
hadn't
capital plan.
had that support,
Oh, we would be way behind.
we'd be way behind. So we are on track, even though we have gone through some bad years, like 2014, 2015, 2016, not good years for our community, and yet we've still managed. So I don't think at this point that it is unreasonable to use some of our savings to help the businesses. We've increased the utilities on the businesses. Again, specifically, I think it's time that we should be taking a solid look at that. And that's basically my whole premise, and I will wait to see what the rest of you say. Councillor Courtney.
I do agree that we have to, our taxes are huge, right? Especially on the larger businesses, it's a huge number. Everybody knows they have to pay tax. That's a common, right? If we can even give them that break for this year, like you're saying, I think that's a positive show. What I'm worried about is the year after. We're not out of the long grass yet. Like, it's gonna be another couple more years of stress for the businesses, right? Because of the obvious reasoning. Even if it stays the same, I think the people would understand. They just don't wanna see any more increasing, is a general consensus in my mind. It's hard to keep eating an increase when the business isn't increasing. So, I think that's a positive move, what you're talking about. I think it's something that we can eat. Multiple years, no, we're not gonna be able to. But I think for this year, it's a good show, a good show to the business people, the business community, that we are thinking of them. You know, but so and with that in mind, I'm behind you. It's just my concern is, what about the next year? Where are we gonna go with that? How are we gonna offset that? Are we gonna have to double what we give them, you know, back on the tax notice to try to retain that back? That would be disastrous then. So we have to be careful what we do now, because the next one will be the one that'll be the tough one to put out there, right?
Councillor Rose?
And unfortunately, that's a conversation we've had for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I know you're new to this decision, but we've struggled with it for the last couple of years, and we've had surpluses in the past, and then we balanced the budget on the back of savings already, right? And now we're asking to take more savings. Now I hear you, and we can hope that keeping our tax rate low increases assessment. You know, we end up with more development, we end up with somebody else opening up or building or improving, so we end up with more assessment. And I mean, that very well can be a strategy that works. Open for business does drive economics. But we do have to recognize, and the taxpayers have to recognize, that it's on the back of savings. It's not on, the back of surplus.
Councillor Courtney?
That's where I'm thinking, if you really want to put it out that we're open for business, that's where we come up later on with maybe a better program for new business tax incentives or something coming up later on, where we can say we are open for business. Come on in and here's a tax break. to start up, but then you'll catch up later on as you open the doors, or, you know, but then again, there's argument on that where the guy that's been here for 20 years, how come I don't get a tax break, right? So, I mean, there's argument with that too, but there are certain things we can do to show that we are open for business, especially to new businesses coming into town. Whether that we can make a deal with them or put in the, you know, do the legwork, do the you know, all the water and the sewer and everything else, and then put it out over time for them instead of having them put it up front, right? There's other things we can work on as a group to make it so that it is open for business, right? So, but again, I got to go back to I think you're onto something, Linda. I think the business people in town would appreciate a little bit of a break, even if it's a little bit. It's better than an increase, and an increase is what they can't take right now. So.
Again, I'd like to point out that we don't know yet if it's an increase to the dollars until I change the assessment and find out exactly what it is. The mill rate has gone up, does not mean the total tax dollars being paid has gone up. So I need to do that calculation.
Councillor Panasic?
I was just wondering, when we compare our mill rate, I know residential mill rate, I remember is in the upper part of comparisons to other communities. What's our commercial mill rate? I can't remember if we were the highest in the land or if we were more in
I
the
don't believe in mill rates, because a property that is worth $300,000 in this community and worth $300,000 in Edmonton, the mill rate there might be half of ours, and they're still paying the same $3,000 at the end of the year. The mill rate is a balancing figure, which is why I've never liked that number and comparing it to other communities, because it's just a balancing number. It's not accurate. It depends on your assessment. It depends on the total town assessment to the size of it. There's so many variables that you can't really compare apples to apples. But if you want to have a better answer to your question, I believe our newspaper person would know more than I do.
Trending down, I think he said. Councillor Gilroy?
I'll probably be roasted for this one, but is it, one thing I've noticed in this town is not necessarily the amount of taxes they pay, but the number of associations and charities and that they have to support. So when you put that together with the taxes, it is very overwhelming. When we have all these fundraisers, and I'm just thinking back to hearing one of the parents say, is there any way of putting them all together and pulling it out, because it just seems like there's so much. But I'm in agreement with you. If we can figure out a way to either keep the taxes the same for the businesses or lower them, I'm in favor of that.
Treasurer?
Just to add to what Councillor Gilroy has stated, when he mentioned all the nonprofits and churches and stuff, it reminds me that our percentage of accessible properties in this town is much, much higher for the exempt properties than most other communities. So if you took that 5 million of assessments, at least, or more, out of the equation, our mill rate would be dropped dramatically. But we have a very, very high percentage of non-taxable properties in this town, much higher than the average. The province has commented on that already, because we have a lot of social housing, we have a lot of churches, we have a lot of municipal properties. Everything adds up to not taxable. And if you look at your figure on the second page, page 1 at the bottom, our total assessed values that we are taxing is 272 million, but exempt properties is 101 million. I'm just saying percentage-wise, which is why the mill rate, again, I'm just using that for the mill rate argument.
I was waiting for you to say, and the cemeteries too, which you wanted to tax earlier.
So, is there any other comments? If we were to go to leave the residential as you have calculated, and if we took a mill rate of 0.013 for the industrial, would that have to change your bylaw?
Yes.
So we would require a special meeting once you've got those figures.
Yes.
I myself think it's well worth doing that. What do the rest think?
Sorry, Debbie.
Councillor Rose?
Well, I know Terry's not gonna like me, but I actually agree that we should consider that. And I hope though that if council does agree to consider that we wholeheartedly consider some tax incentives. We've talked a couple times about doing that for the business community and trying to increase assessment, because we're not gonna be able to solve this without increased assessment or increased taxes. So we can give a concession. $80,000 isn't a huge amount of money in our budget. It's not going to break the town. I hear where you're coming from, Terry, and I appreciate it, and we do appreciate all the hard work. And I know you have to go back one more time, but I do think that there's value in trying to show that we are open for business and trying to attract it.
Councillor Danaka?
I can see the basis from where you're coming from, but again, my concern is similar to Arlen, Councillor Courtleigh's, in that we do it now, this year, and then what happens next year? The assessment's low or high or whatever, and then the rate has to be raised to meet the demand. So did we really accomplish anything? We made it affordable this year, and then next year we have to raise it to an irrational number, just as an example, an irrational number, just to maintain what we have. So, but I'm open to seeing what the calculations turn out to be, and what it is that we're looking at in terms of, what we may have to take out of surplus to see. So I'm open to seeing where that takes us.
Councillor Long?
Stated right from the get-go, be careful what you ask for when you talk about raising taxes. But to the mayor's credit, you've had some volatile discussions about taxation in this chamber, but we've come out pretty good, and everybody's bang on the money. It's going to be more difficult. It's going to somewhere down the road, we're going to be paying the piper. But these are tough times, and it doesn't matter who you talk to. And every business sees the numbers, and they see their numbers have dropped drastically. And so we've done our due diligence. We've reduced our costs. We've asked everybody to see where they can pare it down. And to your credit, and to our staff's credit, I mean, you guys have done a great job in tightening everything up for us. Can we do a bit more? Yes. Is it going to create some potential problems down the road? Yes. But as long as everybody's aware, we're doing our best to try to get through this rough stretch. And we're doing our due diligence, and we're trying to help our businesses succeed, survive. So I'm in agreement with the mayor this time. I think we should do it, as long as we're not cleaning out our reserve, as long as we're not having to pay too much. And if it's in that 85,000, maybe it's the way to go.
Councillor Panasi?
I'm all in favor of seeing what the numbers would be. I would love to see that, just because, it doesn't hurt to look at it, but we need to know the exact numbers, know what we've got in reserves, what we're going to need going in. So if we're gonna have another special meeting, then you would know more information. I just feel like to make a decision right now is just a little bit, it's not with all the information. But I think the other thing that, if we're gonna have another meeting, come back with, covering the cost for our residents also. I'd like to have that included, because we've got our census, our numbers in the town have dropped. The number of residents in town that has decreased. The number of commercial properties has increased. So it's telling me, you know, we wanna make sure that it's good for the commercial properties. Yes, I agree, I don't have any problem with that, but we gotta start thinking about our residential people also, because we are losing people from our town when you look at our census data. So if it's good for one, it might be good for the other half too. So that would be where I'm coming from.
Councillor Corley?
I've said my piece. I'm good.
Councillor Gilroy?
Obviously, we would need to have this other meeting really quickly. My concern in all this is we have really done a lot of work on keeping our expenses down. Our budget that we just passed is pretty much almost the same as last year. I think the only way we could realistically do what the mayor and some of the councillors are suggesting is we as a council have to do an even better job of how we allocate funds. And I don't know if our town people are ready for something like that as well. I'm thinking discretionary income or discretionary grants and stuff like that we have. Are our residents willing to, because we do have a lot of people applying for it throughout the year, are they willing to be prepared that we may not have as much to give out or to give as grants to some of these organizations if we do not collect as much in taxes? Because as much as I really want them to good taxes here, but I also know that in the long run we are accountable to everybody here, and my concern is that when we're actually doing this, when we're actually going to be dealing with these requests for funds, and I almost wish we'd done this before the sesquicentennial one. We have to be very aware of every penny more than ever if we are to do justice to what we want to do with this tax. So, but yes, I'm willing to meet for a special meeting if it gets everything done in the time frame and saves our treasurer from going crazy.
All right then. Okay, so we don't have a motion because this was a bylaw. We're going to set a special meeting date right now. So it can be, when can you have it done? Can you have it done tomorrow night?
No, because I have 3 other deadlines that have to be met by Friday, so it cannot be done the next few days. I don't even know if I'll get all 4 items done. I think I can get 3 out of the 4 done. The meeting would have to be Monday or Tuesday, and I can definitely get it done on Monday or Tuesday.
So Tuesday is our tentative council date, and it's usually
May 2nd.
put aside for,
Well, that was the 3rd Tuesday.
Oh.
It's not the 1st Tuesday.
okay. No chance on the 27th, none whatsoever. If you get it on the Tuesday.
Unless council doesn't mind if we accrue penalties for the GST return, the carbon tax return, and a few other things.
We don't want penalties. All right, so you're looking at the 9th? No.
No.
The 2nd?
The 2nd, the Monday or the Tuesday.
All right. Do you want it, can we do it in the evening, or do you want it in the morning, or do you have a?
Either day or night is no problem, but I'm available anytime those 2 days.
Okay. Tuesday, Tuesday 2nd, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. Does that? Councillor Gilroy?
One concern is I'm still looking at this saying the combined assessment and tax notice must be mailed out mid-May at the latest. And so, maybe even just going at the beginning of the day might, gives them at least a little more time if we.
Well, we won't have Donna. We do have enough time to still do it.
If we pass it on Tuesday, yes.
How about noon? Are you okay on noon, Donna?
You have a noon meeting.
I already have a noon meeting?
7 o'clock then? Okay, everybody got 7? 7 Tuesday.
Excuse me.
Yep, May 2nd, Tuesday. Special meeting. And the mill rate you're gonna bring in, the budget or whatever, the calculations will be based on .013 for the non-residential. And it will be based on, now, Councillor Panasic did bandy around, we'd like a reduction in the residential, but I think, are you okay with it just staying what it was last year?
Well, if we're having a meeting, I'd like to, know what, I'd like it to be the same as last year for our residents, like we're proposing for the commercial properties. So I'd like to see the numbers and what the difference is for both.
I can do 2 or 3 alternatives, like I did last year.
Okay. All right then. Then that's it, there's no motion, there's nothing, not even received for information because we didn't do anything. And we're gonna take a break. 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Yes.